absolute most chilling encounters. We're going to see what pulls them in and what they sometimes find waiting for them in the silence and in the shadows.
Okay, so let's get right into it by figuring out the why. For a lot of people, this isn't about breaking things or causing trouble. As one explorer puts it, it's this incredibly powerful pull, almost an obsession. It's that allure of the unknown, that itch to step over a line just to see what's on the other side.
So a lot of the time, this kicks off as a hobby called urban exploration, or Urbex for short. The whole point is to find this kind of tragic beauty in places that have been left behind. You know, the spooky vibe of a cemetery after dark, the peeling paint and forgotten equipment in an old hospital, or the dead, quiet halls of a school no one's walked in for decades.
But what happens when these so-called forgotten places aren't actually empty? Well, the first and maybe the most obvious danger is stumbling into a world you were never, ever meant to see. A world filled with very real, very human threats. You know, you go into this expecting peaceful, quiet ruins, a fun, harmless adventure. But the reality? Oh, it can be way, way more threatening. Take it from one group of friends who were exploring a huge rural farm and quickly realized these isolated properties are sometimes chosen for a very specific reason.
And check this out. What they found was just insane. This wasn't old tractors and rusted-out farm equipment. No, we're talking Porsches, a Bentley, a Ferrari, even a Ford Raptor that was actively being taken apart. They'd walked right into what looked like a high-end car theft ring operating way out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so the cars were one thing, totally unsettling, but what they found next hinted at something so much worse. Towards the back of the property, there was this foul, horrible smell. They described it as death and rot, and it was coming from a shed and a big, locked freezer. Wisely, they decided not to find out what was inside. And look, this kind of danger, it's not always hidden. Sometimes it's advertised loud and clear. Just look at this story from a quarry in Texas, where explorers found these signs. And you got to remember, especially in a place like Texas, a sign that says trespassers will be shot on sight might not be a bluff.
And yeah, those warnings, they were not messing around. When the property owner spotted a group of teens, her reaction was instant and absolutely terrifying. She just picked up her phone and said those 5 little words. And just like that, you've gone from trespassing to a life or death situation.
And on a return trip, this wasn't a threat anymore. It was real. Let's just walk through this absolute nightmare of an escape. It starts with the crack of 2 gunshots, way too close for comfort. That's when the panic sets in. They just sprint, a full 300 yards toward the only way out. As they're running for their lives, 8 more shots ring out from behind them. Finally, they hit the perimeter fence, throw themselves over it, and land on the main road, where they have to beg a total stranger in a truck to please just get them out of there.
Okay, so we've talked about the human dangerous, armed criminals, angry property owners. But what about when the threat isn't human at all? What happens when you encounter something that you just can't explain?
So picture this. An explorer finds an old church way out in the woods. Before he even steps inside, he peers down an old well, and from the total darkness, he hears this weird rhythmic sound, a faint click, a 2-second pause, and then another click, over and over.
Or how about we go back to that farm? After finding the stolen cars and that horrible smell, the group climbed up on a rock to get a better look around. And what they saw was something straight out of a nightmare. A man sitting at a table, but his face was completely blank, a featureless white expanse. No eyes, no nose, no mouth.
This next one, this is what I'm talking about when I say unsettling. 2 cousins are in the basement of a house that's been abandoned since 1997. Everything is covered in dust and decay except for 5 mismatched chairs. They were perfectly clean, and they were arranged in a perfect circle, like someone had just been there for some kind of meeting or ritual.
And back in that same house, things just kept getting weirder and weirder, step by step. First, there's the discovery. The whole house is a time capsule, literally stuck in May of 1997. Then the unease kicks in. They find a room where the floor is just covered in newspapers from that year, with random classified ads circled. Then it gets really strange. A bedroom window is boarded up but from the inside, and a closet is locked with a heavy, rusted padlock. And then, as they're standing in that basement, terror. They hear footsteps directly over their heads, slow, deliberate, and then the basement doorknob starts to rattle violently. So they scramble out a tiny basement window and just bolt into the woods. When they finally get the courage to look back at the house, they see it. Standing in the now open basement doorway is a single, tall, still figure just watching them go.
All right, let's jump back to that church for a second. The explorer actually fell through a broken stair and ended up in the basement. And down there, he heard a high-pitched voice coming from a small, hand-dug tunnel. And it's just speaking nonsense, pure gibberish, like a voice that doesn't know how to form words.
And as he's just frozen there, staring into this tunnel, the gibberish gets louder and louder, and then it just stops, dead silence. And in that silence, he hears it again, that same rhythmic clicking sound from the well, only now it's coming from inside the tunnel, and it's getting closer. Yeah, that's when you run. That's when you get out of there as fast as you possibly can.
So you get away. The immediate danger is over. But that's not where the story ends, is it? Because the fear doesn't always stay behind in the abandoned buildings. You carry it home with you.
You see this thread running through all these stories. It's what happens after. It's the drive home in complete silence, music off, just replaying what happened over and over again in your head. It's this permanent sense of dread that just sticks with you.
Look, an experience like this, it changes you. What starts out as this quest for a thrill, for an adrenaline rush, it morphs into pure, gut-wrenching fear in the moment. And what you're left with when it's all over, it's trauma. The adventure gets completely swallowed by the horror.
And that's really the heart of it, right? The images, the sounds, the terror. It doesn't stay behind. You take it with you. As the explorer who saw the featureless man put it, what I saw is seared into my brain. It becomes a part of you long after you've run back to safety.
So it really leaves us with this one last thought. The pull of these forbidden places is strong, no doubt, but the price you might pay to get inside can be a piece of your own sanity. So the question is, when you step over that line, are you truly alone, or are you just stepping into the middle of someone else's unfinished and maybe terrifying story?